The Lost Art with Andrew Cox podcast. Marine Corps League and Till Valhalla Project Ambassador. Now streaming on all major podcast platforms. Thanks for tuning in to the podcast that's given a voice to our veterans. The Lost Art with Andrew Cox. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lost Art Podcast, that podcast giving a voice to our veterans. I'm your host, Andrew Cox, and today we're having a fireside chat with the crew and a couple of special guests. But before we get into the episode, are you enjoying the podcast? And make sure you go to the website. That's thelostart.podbean.com. Go check us out, see what we're all about. There are a couple ways you can help support us if you feel so inclined. You can go to that website. There's a one-time donation link. You can become a patron with a monthly donation, or you can go get you some cool gear. And if you don't want any cool gear, but you want to advertise your business, you can do that also on the podcast. So we are a one-stop shop here. We can do it all. Another big shout out to the Till Valhalla Project out there, man. That is one heck of an organization. You all need to go check them out. They do have some awesome gear, and everything that you get helps them in their mission. So please go out, read about it. Just do everything you can to help them, and it would be much appreciated. You can find them at tillvalhallaproject.com. Are you a Marine veteran? Are you missing that bond you had on active duty? Then I have a place for you. Join the only congressionally chartered Marine Corps Veteran Service Organization, the Marine Corps League. Get that brother and sisterhood back in your life. Become one of the fewer, the prouder, a Marine Corps League member. We're going to go around the country. All right, we got the crew here. We got our special guests. We're going to go around and just check and see how everybody's doing. We'll start at the bottom there with Mark first. Mark, how you doing?
I'm outstanding, Andrew. It's beautiful weather out here, of course, in sunny Southern California. So can only complain about certain things.
I understand. Yeah. Well, that's
Don't
good.
want to get
That's
political
good.
here.
Yeah. No clouds, right? You're not getting clouds?
Well, actually, there must be some type of little storm down in Mexico in the Baja area.
Oh, okay.
We do have a few clouds and a little humidity.
Oh.
Nothing like what you're experiencing over there, but
Yeah.
it's pretty drastic for us.
Anything that shifts over your way to get some of the humidity away from us is a good thing. So, yeah. Speaking of humidity, Jim, he's down there in Tennessee. He's got some humidity.
Woo!
Oh, yeah, we got humidity, all right. So, although I would say this week it's been, 85, so only felt like 95, so it's good, I'll take that over the 106 every day.
Yeah, I understand. You had a good week, though?
So far, so good. Yeah, I'm ready for the weekend, though.
Yeah, aren't we all? Weekends are always a glorious thing.
Yes, sir.
Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Everything's good. Back home this week from work. Doesn't mean I'm not working, but I will compliment Jim on it, what he was saying about the temperature. That is, it rained, I guess, down here every day last week while I was gone. And it was raining in North Georgia and southern Tennessee, too. But all of a sudden I got back Monday night and I was like, what happened down here? I mean, it's 78 degrees. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's great.
But it rained every day since, but it didn't rain today. So it hit up about 90 today. All that moisture soaking out of the ground now. So
Yeah.
But other than that, I can't complain. Everything's good.
Very nice. Well, we got Bill Ney is here with us. He was on a podcast, a Fireside Chat recently as well. But Bill, welcome back. How you doing?
Well, I had a wonderful morning. I wore both my Sons of the American Revolution hat and my Marine Corps League hat this morning. I attended as you probably all know, today is Purple Heart Day. And it started in August 7th of 1782. So for us in the Sons of the American Revolution, it's part of our America 250 program. And so I was part of the program down at the Golden Gate National Cemetery, where I gave those that attended a little history lesson on the history of the beginning of what is now known as the Purple Heart. And so I had a very nice morning honoring those that are recipients, past and present, of the Purple Heart.
That's awesome, Bill, and God bless you for doing that. That's awesome. That type of thing needs to be spread around, and people need to know more about it. So thanks for doing that. All right, that brings us to here. Robbie. Robbie's been a superstar this week. So Robbie's already had 2 podcasts on this week from his story, but he's coming back today to talk to us a little bit. So how you doing, Robbie?
I'm doing fine. I'm kind of jealous, though, that people talk about good weather. I got a thunderstorm, so if you hear loud banging going on, there's literally a big thunderstorm going on right in my neighborhood right now. So, we'll see. Hopefully, my computer will stay running and all that.
We'll hope for the best. I'm sure it'll work itself out, right?
Yeah, well, Tampa is, I guess, the thunderstorm capital of the world. And that's our hockey team. It's called the Lightning, and for good reason.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's very interesting.
So,
Yeah, Mark's the only one that gets cut off the internet. He's typically the only one that.
Yeah, that does happen with Mark from time to time.
This is like California. If I talk too bad about the political landscape down here, all of a sudden my internet goes away.
Mark, where in California are you? I'm sorry.
America's finest city, San Diego.
Okay. Yeah, I've got a brother-in-law who's the president of the San Diego Sons of the American Revolution.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and I've been there, so it is.
I'm a past president of the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick, of San Diego.
It is a great town. I enjoy it. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Are we?
Let's jump into this, Robbie. Can you talk to us a little bit about kind of an overview of what we're going to talk about, and then we can jump into the slides if you want.
Yeah. Well, before we do that, I've got to apologize. In my last podcast, I talked about the things that I did when I was the wing commander at Edwards and the different aircraft that I got a chance to fly, but I completely overlooked the fact that my final year, I was there for 3 years, and in my final year there, the government was going through an operation they call BRAC, Base Realignment and Closure, which some of you have been affected by, maybe some of you have not, But anyways, they go out and they pick bases and they say, okay, we don't need these anymore, and they closed them. Well, one of them that they were closing in that time frame in the 96 to 99 era was El Toro. And so I'm sitting in my office one day there at Edwards, and the phone rings, and the secretary says, "Sir, there's a couple of Marine Corps guys who want to talk to you." I said, "What?" Okay, fine, let them in. So they came in, introduced themselves, and they said that they were, excuse me, they were from El Toro. The base is going to be bracked, closed down, and they were looking for a place where they could bring their helicopters. And I went, "Oh, well, that'd be cool." So I said, "Yeah." I said, "So I'll, and I worked for a 2-star general. So I went to him and suggested that we form an advisory group to actually investigate whether these guys could come in and what it would do to, our flying operations, whether, you don't want to say, yeah, come on in and find out, that it's going to adversely affect your flying ops. So I asked them, I said, bring your helicopters in, and we found some ramp space where they could park, and some buildings, where they could set up their squadrons. And so I went out on the ramp in my staff car with my chief of safety and said, "Okay, let's watch these guys as they come in, as they hover, they taxi, and then they take off and all that, and see whether it generates any real FOD, foreign object debris."
Right.
Because the last thing you want is when, because we've got one and only type aircrafts out there, and the last thing you want them is to suck up some rock that, that a helicopter, threw out or whatever.
Yeah, that'd be a bad day.
Yeah, that'd be a real bad day for a lot of us if that happened. So we checked it out and we said, hey, the way these guys come in and, the route coming in and, hovering and all that, we don't think there's going to be a problem. So, yeah, we said, okay, you guys come on in. And so we accepted them and gave them some squadron buildings. And so after they got there, they said, hey, would you like to fly with us? And I said, absolutely. You're asking a test pilot if he wants to fly something new, you bet. So they had the CH, it was called a CH-53.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I got in it and went out and flew around the Mojave Desert and really, really liked flying it. And then another organization came in, they were flying CH-46s. So we were hosting both CH-46s and 53s for a while before I retired. And they were a lot of fun. And of course, at the time, we didn't have any helicopters. If we'd had an aircraft that crashed out in the Mojave Desert somewhere, and one of our pilots had ejected, I talked about land survival. One of the previous slides, one of the previous podcasts. We could have used those helicopters to go out there and actually pick them up. And that would have really enhanced our safety. So I was all for them coming in there. So. Anyway, I apologize. I why that slipped my mind before, particularly since you're a Navy guy, Marine Corps guy, and this is a Marine podcast. How am I going to miss that? It's my.
Oh, well, that's good. Well, we got it in there. That's all right. It just took us an extra day. No big deal.
On my age and all that, yeah. So tonight we're not here to talk about me or my what I did in the Air Force, anything like that. Tonight, we're here to talk about what I consider to be a historic oversight, where our country, for whatever reason, has not honored our Continental Marines from the Revolutionary War and their accomplishments, as well as the Continental Navy that supported them in their first amphibious assault. So tonight, what we'll do is we'll spend a little bit of time talking about the history that led to this first amphibious assault landing on foreign soil by Continental Marines. And Bill's here, and Bill did a really good job of going over Revolutionary War related activities a week or so ago. And so, he can jump in and, shed more light on some of these topics that we'll be talking about. So we'll talk about the actual the build up to why they went down to the Bahamas to do this, and who the key players were, etc. Then after that, then we'll talk a little bit about the actual organization of the Sons of the American Revolution, because we're the organization that's doing this. We're doing this really on behalf of all Americans. And in fact, after we build this monument, we're not going to keep it. We're going to turn it over to the city of Pompano Beach. And so we'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about the actual committee and the monument itself, and some of the fun things that we're planning on when we do our ribbon cutting ceremony next year. So that's basically the three main points that we'll be talking about: the history part. We'll talk about the Sons of the American Revolution, and then we'll talk about the actual committee and the monument itself. Okay.
Awesome.
So with that, what did you hear that? I don't know if you can hear that boom.
Was that thunder?
That's the lightning going on right outside.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a good evening tonight. Yeah. My dogs are, buried underneath a bed somewhere. Okay. So let's see. Well, we'll go ahead and throw the first slide up there, and we'll go ahead and get on with this. But again, as we're going through the slides, at any time I say something that anybody wants to jump in on and talk about or ask questions, by all means, this is a fireside chat, and so we'll treat it that way, right?
Sounds good. All right.
Okay. All right. So there it is, the first amphibious landing by Continental Marines and sailors, and you can see in the upper right. I was joking with some of our committee members. I said, well, we don't really have a program in the Air Force until you got a coffee cup or a patch, and so we came up with this patch. First Amphibious Assault Memorial, and you can see it's got the obelisk and the flags and the 250th. And typically, if you're going to build a monument, you go out and you do all your fundraising first, And then after you do your fundraising, you go, okay, yeah, we got the money. Then you go build the monument. But when you have a situation like we're facing now, in that we're getting ready to celebrate the 250th anniversary of our country, and not only is it the 250th anniversary of our country, but it's the 250th anniversary of an actual Marine historic event. You know,
Right.
we said, okay, you know, we will have the ribbon cutting on the 14th of March. And so now what do we need to do to get ready for that? And so that's the fundraising is focused on, making sure we have all the funds before, in time that we can actually build the monument, flagpoles, and get everything ready for the actual ceremony. But we'll go into more detail on that in a minute. Okay. So next chart, let's see what, okay. So just a kind of an overview. This is an artist's rendition of what that monument is, a memorial we call it, is going to look like. That's a 20-foot tall obelisk. And clearly we're going to have, you know, a U.S. flag to the left of it. And then that is a Marine Corps flag that's going to be to the right of it. And it's going to be located in Pompano Beach, where, I mean, there's several thousand, hundreds of thousands of visitors are going to be able to see this on an annual basis. So, you know, we're really excited about being able to do this. But so that's what the monument is. And so now, you know, why are we building the monument? What was the historic event that actually happened that caused us to want to do this? So next slide. Okay, so it's background. On the 3rd and 4th of March of 1776, almost 250 years ago, Continental Marines and sailors conducted their first amphibious assault landing on foreign soil. And it took place in 2 places down in the Bahamas. The first one it was called Fort Montague, and the other one was called Fort Nassau. And of course, you know, the Marines, you know, they get on ships, and so okay, the Navy was certainly involved in escorting them down there. And then some of these sailors actually participated in the landing events as well. And so there was a Commodore Isaac Hopkins who led that fleet of ships down from Philadelphia down to the Bahamas to disrupt the British and get a bunch of war supplies, gunpowder, cannonballs, etc., from the forts. Bottom line is landing was successful. As a result, the British were forced to assign ships and troops in the Caribbean, which eluded their efforts on the mainland. And so from a strategic perspective, this was really important because really early on in the Revolutionary War, you had this event and the British go, ooh, okay, well, you know, because they had just as much going on in the Caribbean and the Bahamas, you know, and sugar plantations and all of that, that they just said, oh, well, we can't allow the Americans to go and take all that stuff. So they had to keep some of their warfighting resources there in the Bahamas and in the Caribbean to protect those resources. So it was a very successful strategic operation from that perspective as well.
Very nice.
So we think that's pretty cool in and of itself.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's kind of walk through the things that I think really are the dominoes and the building blocks that went into what happened and why it happened for this successful raid. And so we start with on the 5th of October of 1775. Okay, now, you know, we had Lexington and Concord, we had the Battle of Bunker Hill, and then we had the Siege of Boston. Well, this 5 October, the Siege of Boston was still ongoing. And they had the Continental Congress that learned that there were 2 British ships that had supplies and they were heading up to Canada. And they said, oh, well, gee whiz, you know, wouldn't it be nice if we could get some of that stuff for ourselves? And so they established a committee to deal with the issue. And then on the 13th of October, they decided to provide Washington with armed vessels, which became the birth of the Continental Navy. So when they celebrate the Navy, that's kind of as a result of that them learning about these ships and them just getting serious about, okay, you know, we're 13 colonies, but we need to have ourselves a Navy besides an Army who is currently involved in this siege of Boston at the time. So the first ship was called the Alfred, then the Columbus, the Cabot, Andrew Dory, and the Providence. So there's the first ships that we got, that were part of the U.S. Navy. And then they assigned this guy, Commodore Isaac Hopkins, to be the commander in chief. And on that same day, and oh, by the way, that they signed they set the Navy in to be an official part of the war fighters for the Continental Forces. The British Admiral Graves ordered one of his lieutenants, Lieutenant Henry Mowat, to, as I say there, chastise the towns and cities on the East Coast for their rebellious acts and harass American shipping. And so Mowat sails up to Falmouth. At the time, it was Massachusetts. And this was something I didn't realize till recently, was that Massachusetts, at one time, Maine was part of Massachusetts, and it broke away and formed its own state after the Revolutionary War. But at the time, it was Falmouth, Massachusetts, and they basically burned that place to the ground. It's just, Navy ships that came in and just bombarded the place. So the Continental Congress had that in the back of their mind as well, is that now they're being harassed by British ships. And so, okay, now we need to go attack those ships. And who's going to do the attack? Well, if you're going to have attack, it's logical that you would have Marines that are actually going to go, do that part of it, right? I mean, the sailors are going to sail up there, but then someone's going to have to do the shooting and maybe board the other ships and all that. So they got really serious about, we need to form a separate warfighting force that we call the Marines. So that was the background to that, is those dominoes initially falling there. Okay. So next chart. So in the fall of 1775, also Congress asked George Washington to form a Marine unit, and he said, and they asked him, "Hey, why don't you take some of your troops, his ground troops, and form some Marines?" But George Washington pushed back and says, no, he didn't have enough troops. He didn't have enough supplies. He didn't have enough of anything at the time to carve out specialized forces to go get on ships and sail around and attack enemy vessels and do whatever else. So he suggested to Congress that they form Marine units from Philadelphia and New York. And so they relinquish. They tell Washington, okay, fine. And so they form a separate branch, the Continental Marines. And so on the 5th of November, they commission a guy by the name of Samuel Nicholas as the first Marine officer. So he's the first guy, all right? And so then they say, okay, you're it. Okay, you're the Marine Corps guy, but we need more. We need a couple battalions, and so we want you to go do some recruiting on that. And I think the bill, Nate talked a little bit more about that, where there were two places in Philadelphia where that recruiting was originally going on. One of them was a place called the Conestoga Wagon. And I think Bill said that was where the officers were recruited. And then another place called Tunn's Tavern in Philadelphia. And that's where the enlisted guys came from. Now, Bill, were you making that up, or is that a true story?
Oh, that is absolutely true. And in fact, they don't even think there was any recruiting done in the Conestoga Wagon. They went to the Conestoga Wagon to decide who was going to get the commissions and stuff. So those people were already decided, and that's a whole different, kettle of fish than recruiting Marines. So it's still pretty well believed and understood that, almost all of the recruiting was done initially at the Tun Tavern. I mean, they did some recruiting other places after the Tun Tavern, but the Conestoga Wagon was a country club where they went out to talk about who was going to get to have a commission.
Okay.
Like you said, country club. That was good.
Sounds like they were recruiting Air Force officers.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, so next slide. What's the next slide here?
All right.
Okay, so here's the key players. Okay, that got some pictures of these guys. Okay, so there's three guys that we think are kind of important to talk about. The one on the left, that's Samuel Nicholas, who is the first Marine, and then the guy in the middle is John Paul Jones. And what people don't realize was that John Paul Jones was on Commodore Isaac Hopkins' ship, And well, I'm going to talk about some of the things that he did here in just a minute. So he plays an important role in all this as well. And then on the right, that's a picture of the Commodore himself, Isaac Hopkins. And so, yeah, there's the pictures that, just so you can see who the heck we're talking about, as opposed to imaginary critters out there, right? That's actual people.
It puts a face to the name and gives us a little more to go on. That's good.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, so now we know who those guys are. So Hopkins, okay, he has a rose pinned on his chest. Okay, he's given his fleet. He's made a Commodore, and so about that same time frame that he's starting to think about what he's going to be doing. On December of 1775, on Christmas Day, actually, George Washington writes to Congress telling him that his words were, "Our want of powder is inconceivable." Now, I can't imagine what he was thinking, other than, how am I going to fight this war when I don't have any munitions? I don't have
right.
Because I mean, again, we were 13 colonies. We weren't even really all united at that time. And as a side note to that, we didn't have uniforms that were uniform. Each colony brought their own uniforms, from years ago, from French and Indian Wars and earlier stuff. So I mean, you'd have guys show up from Virginia and they were wearing something completely different than guys from New Jersey or New York, whatever.
Right.
So we didn't have supply chains that, that would say, okay, here's all your weapons, like we do today, that I talked a little bit about in my last podcast. He is struggling on how he's going to be able to get all the munitions and how he's going to be able to prosecute this war. At the same time, they got an intelligence report that said that there were large quantities of gunpowder being stored down in New Providence, Bahamas. And what had happened there was the Virginia governor had also gotten rumors that the Patriots were going to be looking for munitions and whatever else, and so they knew about the powder in Virginia. So he loads it on ships and sails it down to New Providence. So they knew that was down in New Providence where they should have gotten it out of Virginia, if possible. Then on the 1st of January, British ships, again, like we talked about how up in Maine, they got attacked. Well, on the 1st of January, Norfolk, Virginia got attacked also. And British ships came in there and they bombarded the place and the town was destroyed. And then I put in parentheses here, Patriots helped with the burning and looting also. Because and most historians don't really spend a lot of time talking about that. They really talk about how Norfolk was decimated by the British Navy, and how that whipped up the flames, of the colonists, and trying to get more support for this the Patriots and this new activity that they're engaged in. So you had these two specific situations where these towns had just been decimated by the British fleet. And Congress gives Commodore Hopkins orders to sail to Virginia's Chesapeake Bay. And then it says, when possible, find the enemy. And if they are not superior to your own, attack, take, or destroy all naval forces. Okay. And then he was supposed to go to North and South Carolina and then do the same, what you just did in Virginia and Chesapeake. And then next he was supposed to turn around, sail back up to Rhode Island, and he was supposed to attack the enemy there. So his job was basically to protect the seaboard, okay, from South Carolina up to Rhode Island. That was the primary job. Okay. Well, apparently there was a little caveat that says, well, but if you can't do that, then then do what you think is best. There's kind of the words that I think were written in there. And so, okay, next slide. He decides, go back slide.
Oh, sorry.
Go back slide. Yeah. So instead of sailing down to the Carolinas or going down to Virginia like the direct orders were, he decides, okay, we're going to go down. He sails out into the Atlantic, and two more ships come out there to join him. One of them was called the Fly, and the other was called the Wasp, or the Hornet, I mean. Those two ships collide, due to heavy seas and whatnot. So one ship limps back to port, the other ship stays with that fleet. And so instead of going down and protecting North and South Carolina and Chesapeake, he heads on down to the Bahamas. Okay. Seemed like a good idea at the time, right?
Yeah.
And so he says, okay, well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to sail down there, and we're going to, attack down there and try to get the gunpowder. Okay, so now you go to the next slide. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about, take a step back and talk about the flags, because this was new to me also. The flag in the upper right, the Union, you can see that's actually the Union is actually the flag of England, and then behind it is the St. Andrew's flag of Scotland, right? Superimposed, that, call that the Union. So when you hear the term Union, that's what that part is. So you have the Union with the 13 stripes. And that was the original American flag. A lot of people think it was the Betsy Ross flag, but at the Battle of Bunker Hill, and then subsequently when Hopkins' fleet sailed down, this was the, quote, American colonies flag. That's what they flew.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah. And so he's flying the Union with the 13 stripes flag, but he also was giving a standard, the yellow flag there, the Don't Tread on Me, or called the Gadsden flag. Okay. And this was actually designed by a guy from South Carolina who I think he became a brigadier general in the militia down in South Carolina. But he designed the flag, and he was really a strong advocate for having an American Navy. And so he designs the flag, and then he gives it to Commodore Hopkins. And Hopkins then unfurls it. And so when he was there, and you guys can tell me more about this because I don't understand flags on Navy ships, but apparently when the commander is on it, he has his own special flag. Is that right?
Yeah, I think for the general officers or admirals, they have like their own flags. Is that what you're talking about?
And so I think that whole say historical aspect of them having their own flags probably started with Commodore Hopkins and him using that "Don't Tread on Me" flag. Now British may have had the same thing, so I don't know. But anyway, they had those two flags that were on the Alfred ship when they were sailing down to the Bahamas.
Right.
So I thought that was pretty cool. Not only did Hopkins have it as his personal standard, but I read that the early Marine Corps adopted that same flag. In fact, I read where when they went down to the Bahamas, Marines had drums, and they painted the drums yellow, and then wrote the "Don't Tread on Me" on there. So that was obviously something they really took hold of and said, "Yeah, this is now ours. We're gonna use this flag." And another interesting sidelight about the flag with the rattlesnake is that was Benjamin Franklin liked the rattlesnake as something to represent the United States, because he says they always give a warning, before they attack. When they attack, they attack with bigger and all that. And so there were a lot of our early patriot fathers or founding fathers who really took a liking to the rattlesnake for whatever reason. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. I grew up in Idaho, like I said, in my first podcast, and I thought there were only rattlesnakes out in Idaho. I didn't know they had them on the East Coast too, but
I think they got rattlesnakes everywhere.
They must, yeah, here in America. Well, I don't think they have them in Great Britain, because I think it was Benjamin Franklin said that what we ought to do is bundle up a bunch of them and give them to the British.
There's two things that I believe when I was a child, I believed was you had to look out for 100% of the time. The first one was rattlesnakes.
Yes.
And then the second one was quicksand. I thought for sure quicksand was going to be everywhere, and it didn't happen that way. So.
Yeah, in Idaho, I had more than one occasion where I came close to a rattlesnake, and decided, better part of staying alive was turn around, just leave him alone, you know,
Yep.
laying on a hot rock or whatever, just leave him alone. But yeah, for whatever reason, I guess as a kid, I just thought, okay, yeah, we got rattlesnakes in out west, but you know, the thought of having them in on the East Coast was that was a totally alien concept to me. Back there for whatever reason, I don't know why, but okie doke. So yeah, it's a little bit about the flag. So I think this is kind of a historical basis there that I thought it was interesting. So okie doke. So I thought you needed to see a map, okay? And so you got on the left side of this map, this is the southeastern part of Florida. And so you can see from, you know, from West Palm Beach down to Miami, okay, Homestead and all that. And then if you go eastbound out of Florida, you'll come to the Bahamas, and you got the big Grand Bahama Island, and then off to the on the map here off to the east, you got the Great Abaco. And then the southern part of that, there's a tip of land down there, I think, and that is where Hopkins' fleet went down to that particular part there in preparation for then sailing further south down to Nassau, and that was their ultimate target. But they originally they all kind of congregated down there, and I think it's a place called Hole in the Wall or something like. I forget the exact name of where they were at. But unfortunately, when they got down there, they were spotted. Okay, so you know that in itself was not good. They got spotted, and so the people in the Bahamas got some advance notice that the ship was going to be coming in. So I mean, but the other thing I wanted to put this up here is because if you go back to Florida and you can see Fort Lauderdale, if anybody doesn't know where Pompano Beach is, it is just right above it, and so that is where the monument is going to be. You know that we're going to talk about is there in Pompano Beach, north of Fort Lauderdale. Okay, so next slide.
That was good because I had no clue where it was, so I'm glad you pointed that out.
Well, I mean, as a matter of fact, you know, when I first heard about it, I thought the same thing. I said, okay, you know, I figured it was on the East Coast, but how far down or wherever? So while Hopkins he's down there, they capture a couple other ships, okay, and make them part of their fleet. And so Hopkins decides what he's going to do is they're going to put all the Marines on these other two ships, okay? So now they're not American ships; they're these, you know, they're these other somebody else's ships, and so they will be the ones that actually sail into Nassau Harbor area, and then they'll surprise, you know, everybody jump off and go attack them. Force. And that was, I guess, that was the master part of his strategy. There was that they were going to load these Marines onto these other two ships, and then sail and have the attack from there. Well, like I say, the British, they spot the fleet, and Governor Brown decides to start moving gunpowder out of Nassau, figuring, okay, yeah, well, if they're here, they're probably here not for good intentions. Well, so on the 3rd of March, now this is the key date, okay? On the 3rd of March, Captain Nicholas leads a 270-man landing force ashore, 2 miles from Fort Montague, and I've got it underlined there. That becomes the very first amphibious landing in Navy and Marine Corps history. That is the first time that our country's Navy and Marine Corps engaged in amphibious landing on foreign soil. Well, probably on any soil.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay. So to me, that's truly important that we understand that. So he goes in there. So they march to the fort after they land. They march to the fort, and somebody from the fort comes out and says, you know, what is it? What are you here for? Right? And so he gives them a message that says he was sent by Congress of the United Colonies in order to possess themselves of the powder and stores belonging to His Majesty. And so the guy says, oh, thank you. And so the guy goes back to Fort Montague. And the assault force marches to Fort Montague, and they eventually take the fort without firing a shot. So, you know, that was pretty good. Okay, nice. Next slide. Okay, so yeah, I wanted to show you a picture. Okay, on the left-hand side of the picture, you can see there's a picture of a guy in a Marine Corps uniform there, and you can see. Hopefully, you can see that it's green. It's not blue. That's actually a green uniform. And Bill's not wearing his uniform, but he's got that uniform that he wore. At his podcast about a week or so ago. Okay,
that's right.
You can see where they're downloading the cannons and all that, and you can see the drums. But then behind that, look, there's the artist has the two flags. One of them with the Union with the 13 stripes, and the other is "Don't Tread on Me" flag. So I thought that, and that's probably Samuel Nicholas there leading the march there, with his saber out and all that, as they're marching, in celebration of being able to take the fort. And so they got a bunch of cannons, they got a bunch of ammunition and all that. But because they had spent so much time down in those two ships, below decks was cramped and people were getting sick and whatnot, instead of continuing to march to Fort Nassau that day, they spent the night there at Fort Montague. Okay, next slide. Okay, so now Nicholas, he gives his troops a rest. So hey, we're going to spend the night here, and we'll go attack Fort Nassau, a few miles away from here tomorrow. Yeah. Okay. Well, while they're resting, Commodore Hopkins contacts the inhabitants with a message that I thought this was fascinating what he said. So I'll read it. This is, to the gentlemen freemen and inhabitants of the island of New Providence, the reasons of my landing an armed force on the island is in order to take possession of the powder and warlike store belonging to the crown. And if I am not opposed in putting my design in execution, the persons and property of the inhabitants shall be safe. Neither shall they be suffered to be hurt in case they make no resistance, given under my hand on board the ship Alfred. Okay, so he gives that to the governor, and he gives that, they disseminate that information. So I'm sure the people sat there and thought, okay, well, is this worth fighting over? And they came to the answer, no. Okay, this is okay. So Governor Brown, well, he's still loading the two ships of gunpowder, and they sail off to St. Augustine. So some of the gunpowder that we went after that had originally come down from Virginia is now in Florida, St. Augustine, Florida. Okay, more about that in a minute. Okay, but the next day, the 4th of March, Captain Nicholas, gets his troops, and they march on up to Fort Nassau, goes to the governor's house and demands the keys to the fort. And they'd say, okay, here you go. So he gets the key. No shots are fired. Nobody's hurt. But they fired a cannon shot, and I guess before they showed up, and so they asked the Governor Brown why he did that, and he didn't give them a satisfactory answer. He gets arrested, and he's eventually released under a prisoner exchange sometime later. But they did. I think he might have been one of the few. There were like 2 or 3 guys who actually got captured and put on Commodore Isaac's ships and sailed back, and then eventually was traded in a prisoner exchange. Right. Yeah. Okay. So now they've got the 2 forts. Okay. Okay. Next chart. This was I thought a great picture also that was painted that shows the first landing. So there's your first amphibious assault. What it would probably look like with people rowing their boats from the ships onto the land, getting off, and then mustering up, and then getting ready to march off to the forest. So that's a historic painting of that as well. I like that. Kind of cool. Okey-doke. So they've taken the 2 forts, and like I showed you in the one picture, they're downloading cannons and mortars and all kinds of stuff. Matter of fact, they fill up all their ships, and they still have loot that they can take with them. So now they go and they get 2 more ships that are local there, and they basically write an IOU to the locals, say, okay, give us these ships, because we need them to haul our stuff up to Connecticut and Rhode Island and wherever else. But we'll give them back to you later, which they do. Okay, So on the 16th of March, because it took them, I'm sure it took several days for them to actually load those ships up.
Right.
Okay. So Commodore Hopkins, he starts sailing back home, and as they get back to Rhode Island area, they do encounter British ships, and they engage in a naval battle. And
wow.
yeah, and during that naval battle, part of their ships, as you imagine, like in TV shows, lumber starts flying, and the cannonballs hit the ships, right?
Right.
Right. Well, and so one of the Marines, this Lieutenant John Fitzpatrick, is killed. Again, he doesn't get killed on land; he gets killed sitting on a ship.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was one of Samuel Nicholas's friends, and who so Nicholas lamented the fact that one of his good friends was killed during that naval engagement.
Right.
So anyway, the bottom line was that the mission to the Bahamas was a huge success, and so you'd have thought everybody would have got heroes medals and all that, and time off for good behavior and all that. But what happens is Hopkins is eventually driven out of the Navy about a year or two later.
Wow.
Yeah, so they basically fired him for failing to follow the original orders. Okay, and John Paul Jones. Afterwards, after they sailed back, he's made a captain, and so he writes a letter that he says that the gunpowder loss was foreseen and could have been prevented. And so I guess both sides of the story, and people were falling to that he didn't really follow the orders that he was given, which was to protect the sea coast, the eastern seaboard.
Mm-hmm.
However, because the raid caused the British to assign many of the troops. It did dilute the forces, and we've already talked about the strategic success, so we don't need to. We can go ahead and get on from that slide now.
All right.
Okay, so here's a picture of actual Fort Montague. So if you go to the Bahamas today, you can go to the fort. Now Nassau, the Fort Nassau doesn't exist, but Fort Montague does, and it was built in 1741, and it's apparently the oldest fort in the Bahamas that is still standing. So it's kind of a cool looking fort. I don't have perspective as far as from that picture of just how big that is and how tall it is and all that. Therefore, how big the guns are.
It's looking pretty small to me. I don't know.
But yeah, literally, yeah. To me, I'm thinking, okay, well, as far as forts go, I spent time in England.
Those are a little bit bigger.
So when I go look at castles, I'm expecting something a little bit bigger than that, right? So
yeah.
It isn't like these things were huge, but they were strategically located on the island. And apparently with those cannons, if any ship did sail in, you aim the cannons at the ships, and that probably was effective in deterring the enemy from sailing in there, and doing what you do. But anyway, so I just thought, I'd see that's what it looks like today if you get an opportunity to go down to the Bahamas. Okay, so let's see what's the next chart. Okay, so now we're going to shift gears and start talking a little bit about the Sons of the American Revolution and us as an organization, and why we decided to do this. And we became aware of the amphibious assault some time ago. In fact, what we'd heard about was we have our organization from the national level. We have a president general. That's what he's called. And we had a President General, Lindsey Brock, who apparently was on a cruise himself, just a personal cruise that went into Bahamas. And apparently when he got to the Bahamas, he went to Fort Nassau, Fort Montague, and he laid a wreath, as a tribute to the Continental Marines and sailors who engaged in this historic event. And so we in the Forest Society heard about this. We said, well, gee whiz, are there any plaques or monuments or anything, do we have anything, and we couldn't find anything anywhere. We were talking to, a lot of different people about this and said, this essentially has become a historic oversight by our country where, for whatever reason, nobody has bothered to take the time or make the decision to raise a monument of any sort to honor our nation's first Continental Marines and the sailors who participated in this historic raid. So we said, we looked left, looked right, and said, okay. You know, like I told you, I think in the last one about shake the stick, you know, when you're the pilot in command, we decided shake the stick, and we're gonna do this. Okay. And so then we looked, okay, well, where are we gonna have this thing at? Well, as we were looking for places, our committee chairman, Steve DePaul, went and talked to different municipalities and whatnot. And he said, hey, Pompano Beach, he said, is a very patriotic community, and they are really anxious to support this, and they're willing to give us the land. And then we looked at it and we said, oh, by the way, you know, I mean, just like Iwo Jima Monument is not in Iwo Jima, okay, it's in Washington, D.C., in America. We wanted to have the monument in America, but we wanted to have it as close as possible to where it actually happened. So we said, well, we put it down in the southeastern part of Florida. You know, that should be a good historic location for us to do that. So we started on Pompano Beach because we said we can consider it to be the closest logical place in the mainland to the actual site in the Bahamas. So the Florida Society formed a committee, and they said, okay, guys, go plan, coordinate, raise funds, and you know, get everything ready to erect a fitting monument. So, you know, I'm one of the 5 guys that was selected to go do that. On the pictures here, you can see it's going to be right on the coast there, and that red arrow on that left picture there, that's about where the memorial is going to actually be. It's right next to that sign that says Pompano Beach. And then the middle picture shows, you know, I guess if you're looking, you know, probably from a drone looking up the coast, you can see where it's going to be right on the beach there. Okay, which again, hundreds of thousands of people go past this area on an annual basis. So this monument is not going to be in a cemetery or someplace where nobody's going to go. This is going to be a place where, you know, thousands and thousands of people are going to be able to go on an annual basis. So we're really excited about being able to do this. But it's right there. It's right there next to that pier, and I mean looks like the only pier close by. So exactly. I'm sure that's a huge attraction. Exactly, you're right on, AJ. Is that we think that this place is going to draw literally probably hundreds of thousands of people on an annual basis are going to come by there, and then when they see the monument, they're going to say, "Oh, what's this about?" And the plan is that it will resonate with what our national Sons of the American Revolution mission is, which what we're going to talk about here in just a second. Okay. All right. Okay. Next chart. Yeah. Okay. So this is the National Society. So the way the Sons of the American Revolution is organized, you have a national society, and so you got the staff, you know, and elected officers up at the national level. Okay. And we were formed in 1889. So we, you know, we've been in existence for quite a while. Our headquarters is in Louisville, Kentucky. And in 1906, President Teddy Roosevelt signed a federal charter. And by the way, he was a member of the Sons of the American Revolution, so that didn't hurt. But the key thing I want on this slide is our mission statement and what we're all about. Okay, so this is the kind of thing that Bill Ney and I are focused on a daily basis, and that is first and foremost, we want to honor our Revolutionary War patriot ancestors by promoting patriotism. We also want to serve our communities, and then we want to educate and inspire future generations about the founding principles of our country. So now when you take a look at that monument, you overlay with that mission statement, we say, well, this is a perfect fit. So the people that come in, they're going to say, well, what's this monument about? And they'll start asking questions, and hopefully they'll do a little Googling and a little searching and do more reading about all of these things that are associated with that first amphibious raid by the Continental Marines. And so that will help inspire future generations as well. So that's the plan. Okay. And that's what we're all about. So we've got from the national, we've got state societies in each of the states. We also got international societies in places like Canada and France and several other foreign countries. We've got members. Spain, for instance, And then we've got local chapters. I mean, there's, I think, your head's kind of in the way, but the bullet there.
Oh,
But
sorry. Here, let me fix it.
we've got 550 local chapters all over the country. And we've got, currently we've got 37,000 members within the organization. But our database has over 200,000 descendants admitted. Now these are people who can link their lineage back to someone who participated in the Revolutionary War, one way or another. Okay, and from that, then they can become a member. Next chart. Let's see what
real quick. You had asked me earlier if my lineage has been tracked back that far. It has not.
Yeah.
However, my wife's was tracked back that far, and she has relatives or whatever that was in the American Revolution.
So she could become a member of the Daughters. So yeah, we have a sister organization called the Daughters of the American Revolution,
Right.
and so yeah, my wife is a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution also.
Very nice.
So, and what we find, the wives, the ladies, they are so much better at recruiting, raising money. So, I mean, I did not even know that the Sons of the American Revolution existed for many years, where I'd heard about the Daughters of the American Revolution, many, many years ago. So
Yeah.
for whatever reason, the ladies just out hustle us all the time on that. But we're
that's pretty normal though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my hat's off to them, for a job well done in that regard.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so to become a member of the Sons of the American Revolution, okay, you got to show an acceptable ancestor back in that time frame. Now, say, I don't know if I've got any ancestors. Do you know how many? If you go back 10 generations, do you know how many grandparents you have at 10 generations back?
It's a good point.
1,024.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you have 1,000. So you got two. It goes from two, from your parents.
Yeah.
2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512 at 9 generations, 1,024 at 10 generations. So if you go back 7 to 8 generations, which that's kind of the heart of the envelope for most people of having ancestors who were of the age to be able to participate in the Revolutionary War.
Right.
You've probably got 500 grandparents now. That, let's say half of them. You probably have 250 grandfathers, and so if your lineage was in America, chances are you probably do have someone who would qualify to be a member of the Sons of the American Revolution.
Now, minus Robbie and Bill, does anybody else here know if they have lineage back that far? No.
The best I know of is the Civil War.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't have any. I guess my descendants came in a strange way. They went into Canada, then came down from Ireland, but that was well after the Revolutionary War.
Well, is that through both your father and your mother, or just your father?
Well, that's on my father's side. Now, my mother's side, I won't sit here and lie. I honestly couldn't tell you. They're of German descent, so I couldn't. In Western Pennsylvania, that family runs deep as far as the state of Pennsylvania. So I couldn't. There may be, but I honestly don't know.
Well,
there's not many of them alive at this point anymore that could. And I wish when I was younger I had been smarter and had actually listened more and wrote things down. And
that's one thing that Robbie was mentioning to me is already there's a huge database. And Robbie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a huge database that if you could find anybody in that database that you're connected to, that basically paves your way all the way back.
If you've got uncles, aunts, great grandparents, cousins, that may have joined. If you can draw a direct lineage to them into the Sons of the American Revolution, and if they've already got their application had already been approved years ago, then that helps out considerably. So and again, it isn't just on your father's side; it could be on your mother's side. And so, not only your mother, but maybe your grandparents, one of your grandparents that could have been here in America for years. Could have been a long time ago that they have. So the number of grandparents that could have fought in the Revolutionary War, that narrows it down. Obviously, if one grandparent came from Germany or whatever, I mean, I've got ancestors who came from Germany as well. So yeah, part of my I don't have 500 grandparents who were in the were here in America, but I do have a significant number through my father's side, and then my father's father and his mother. That's where the majority of mine come from. So it's through my grandparents that I can link a lot of my lineage back to them. So you just may want to look and see. I mean,
let me jump in, Robbie.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm a genealogist, and I teach the genealogy merit badge for scouts. And one of my Eagle Scouts I was working with, and he became our Eagle Scout of the Year for our local area. He had a German background, and it led to Lancaster there in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And I started doing his taking it back. He had to submit to me 4 generations. I can usually go and run with 3 generations, but he gave me 4, and I ran it back, and I said, "Oh my God." And I got back to him, and because I was going to introduce him at our chapter meeting, because what I found out is I actually found documentation that his great-great-grandfather was a Hessian soldier that got taken as a prisoner of war. And what was ironic, he got taken as a prisoner of war at the Battle of Saratoga, where my ancestor was fighting for New Hampshire militia. So it turns out my great-grandfather took his great-grandfather prisoner. So what happened was, and so he started doing his research, when 30% of the Hessians, they weren't mercenaries, they were conscripted by the barons, sent them over here and got the money from the British. And so they came here and said, "Whoa, we like it here." And there's an estimate of at least 30% of the Germans stayed here because they saw a better life here, and a lot of them in the Pennsylvania area.
Yep.
And what happened is, even though one of the grandfathers had participated on the wrong side initially, he married into other people of German that did contribute to the American Revolution. So I found an additional several of his ancestors that had been to Pennsylvania, and so they're now applying to join. And further, on one of his sides, they took it all the way back to the Mayflower. So again, what Robbie was saying, it fans way out to many, many generations. And if you have somebody that was there, Mike, it's likely you do. And you just need to get a hold of your local SAR. They have genealogists and registrars that can help you. It's obviously your responsibility to put together your documentation, but they have people that are trained that can really show you and unlock that path. And once you start going down a path and you find a Patriot ancestor, both the DAR and the SAR have public accessible lists that if you've got an ancestor, a surname, you can go in there, and you may have a relative, a distant cousin that already joined SAR or DAR, and you can piggyback on that application and save you a lot of work.
Yeah. And I saw, it looks like, Jim, you made a comment that you're pretty sure, but not how to prove it.
Well, I just looked at my ancestry, and from my grandmother, several, who's now 100, but she's really Asher Benjamin died in the Revolutionary War. And he is a direct relative of my grandmother. So
okay. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if your grandmother, if your grandmother can draw back to him and you can draw to your grandmother, that's all you need to do, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So there may be more opportunities than you're aware of, and that's why I wanted to tee this up for you guys tonight, but also for you to spread that out to your Marine Corps buddies, is that there are resources. When I was a kid growing up, I asked my dad where we came from. I grew up in Pocatello, Idaho, and I was studying Idaho history. I think it was in grade school, and they talked about the Oregon Trail that went through Pocatello, and so I was okay. So I knew about the Oregon Trail, and knew about the pioneers and all that. And so I started thinking, I said, okay, where did we come from? Because I know I'm not Native American Indian. Okay, and so there's only two kinds of people in Idaho: either those that are immigrants, or those that are native. And so, okay, I knew we were part of that population that you'd call immigrants. So where did we come from? My dad had no idea either. He had no idea where we came from. So it was only after I retired from the Air Force, then after I retired from my second job, after I got out and became a defense contractor, then moved down to Tampa, Florida, and my wife bought me an Ancestry DNA test kit. And I thought, okay, that's going to solve all my problems. It doesn't. So, I wouldn't start there, but it got me at least looking into genealogy. And I'll tell you, with the internet today, it is so much easier to go try to track people down. And one of the sites that I would suggest you might want to start with is called WikiTree. Kind of like Wikipedia, and it's WikiTree, and it's free, and you can go in there and you can set up an account, and you can put your name in there, and then you can put your parents in there, and then your grandparents. And as you start typing those names in there, then if their database says, we already have such and such a name, then you can look and see, is it your guy or not? Is it your ancestor, and if it is, then you click yes, and then because you might have some, like I say, distant cousin that you don't know about who's already loaded their tree in there, and so that's how you might be able to link into them, and that's how I was able to determine how many patriot ancestors I actually did have. So with the internet today, it is a lot easier. And then with people like Bill, that does genealogy, I do quite a bit of it too. But and I'd be glad to, if you guys want to give me your names, and I could go do an initial search to see if there's any names I can link up to. So anyway, the key point is that there are a lot of resources today that can help you solve that problem, because you're just like I was some years ago before I got into this, of not having a clue about my ancestry at all. And now I know that, I'm a member of the SAR, but I'm also a member of the Mayflower Society, and I had no idea that I would ever have ancestors who were on the Mayflower. I always thought, when I first found out about this, I said, well, that can't be right. Because I said, surely that would have been family lineage that we would have known about over the years. Nope, that one fell through the crack, probably 100, 150 years ago. We're going back over 400 years for those guys. So, okay, so enough on that topic. Let's go back and see. So the other thing is that when you look at who is acceptable, it doesn't have to be someone who packed a rifle and shot a musket or whatever, or served in the Continental Navy or the Marines. Okay, if you happen to have a guy who was a signer of the Declaration of Independence or was part of the Congress, or if they provided arms supplies and supported, signed oaths of allegiance. So even though they may not have actually been in the militia, if there's some documents that they signed where they signed an oath of allegiance or whatever, or they aided the cause, you'll qualify for membership as well.
That's really cool. I like that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do that now. And again, the interesting thing is, as you start peeling that onion back, you never know where you might have a distant relation to somebody who was. I mean, it might not be a direct grandfather, but it could be, uncle married a wife who they have someone who was a signer of the Declaration of Independence. So I mean, right. It's kind of interesting from that perspective. And of course, we do have international membership as well. So because during the Revolutionary War, we had France and Spain that on our side. So they qualify also. If they can prove a lineage back to a French soldier or a Spanish soldier,
Right.
yeah, they're just as qualified to join the organization as well. So that's
Wow.
membership. Okay.
Yeah, and I'll be talking about that at the National Marine Corps League Convention in Texas, and particularly I focused on the Texas involvement because a lot of people don't picture Texas, and as you recall from my last talk,
Right.
Texas had a significant involvement in wrangling upwards of 10,000 cattle to run over to New Orleans to go up the Mississippi to feed the troops, and so they've already identified a lot of the Texan families that were involved in that those cattle drives, and they're all eligible to join both the Daughters and the Sons of the American Revolution.
Great. Well, here up in the Panhandle, we Galvez from Spain is a big deal up there. And it's the same thing, he went into that area and helped kick the British out, and so we have a lot of people who celebrate Galvez up in the Pensacola Panhandle area over towards Mobile.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's see. So now that's how you can become a member. And again,
Sorry.
You guys, anybody, if you want to contact me offline about this and see if we can kind of prime the pump, I'd be more than happy to do that with you. So, okay, let's see, next chart. Okay, someone put
good Lord. I keep hitting the wrong button. I'm sorry.
Okay, let's see. So now we're at the Florida State Society. So we've talked about the National Society, and so things flow down to the state society. We have a state president, and they have their officers and all that. And then spread across the state, we have 32 chapters, local chapters. So in the Tampa area, the Tampa chapter, Clearwater chapter, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And so we call ourselves, the nickname is Florida, FLSSAR, Florida Society. And so it was the Florida Society that initially made that decision to set up this special committee to lead the efforts to go do the fundraising and then do the design, the artwork, and all that to make this thing a reality. And so, my hats off to the officers of the Florida Society who said, yeah, this is the right thing to do. So, let's go make this happen. And so they formed the committee. There's 5 of us on the committee, and our chairman is a guy by the name of Steve DePaul. And Steve is the guy, he has really been, he is the driving force behind this. I think he was the original guy who went to the officers in the Florida Society and said, hey, this is something I think we ought to do. And they all agreed. And so they made him the chairman. And so, he's just doing a bang up job leading this effort. So, again, my hat's off to him for that.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's see, next charts. Okay, so now we're down to, let's talk about the project itself. Okay, the memorial. Okay, so we call it the memorial, and it's going to include the actual monument, which is a 20-foot tall obelisk, kind of like Washington's obelisk in Washington, D.C. And it's going to have some bronze plaques on it. We're going to have the 2 flag poles, one the U.S. flag, and one on the other side will be a U.S. Marine Corps flag. We're going to have 2 park benches, and one of them is going to have, we're going to have a Continental Marine, life-size Continental Marine. He's going to be sitting on the park bench, and he's going to be looking up at the obelisk. And this is going to allow for people to actually sit there next to this Continental Marine and have their picture taken, right? As a momentum for their visit, right? Yeah. So we think that's going to be really cool to have more interaction with the local, the visitors are going to be coming in there. It's just to actually sit next to a Continental Marine and have your picture taken. So
that'll be a bronze statue as well.
That's going to. So the obelisk itself is going to be actually made of concrete, but there's going to be some plaques on the obelisk that talks about the historic event and all of that.
Right.
Then we'll have the bronze statue of the Continental Marine, on the bench, and then we're going to have around it. We're going to have this railing with these pillars, and on the pillars there's going to be plaques, and on those plaques, this is where we're going to have the names of the people and organizations, companies, etc., that donate significant amounts of money to help with this the fundraising effort, so that we can like I say, we got to build it before we can't go anti-deficient and tell contractors to go build the thing if we don't have the money. So we got to make sure we have the money first, right?
Well, everything revolves around money eventually. So
absolutely, yeah. And so the plan, like we said, is we want to have the ribbon cutting ceremony. It was originally going to be on the 7th of March, which we said, okay, we do it in the middle of the week, people aren't going to come. So what's the first Saturday after the 3rd and 4th of March, which is the actual historic event? And so we were originally planning on doing this on the 7th of March, but we just hit too many problems of other things going on the 7th of March. The DAR, for instance, they were having their national convention or state convention. I'm not sure which, but one of them, they said, we're going to go to our own convention at the same time frame. Well, then we found out the SER is having a leadership conference on the 7th of March also. So we said, okay, we'll slide it a week. So for this coming ribbon cutting, we're going to have on the 14th of March, but then we're planning to have annual celebrations.
Right.
So this isn't a one and done. This is every year we're going to have color guards that's going to go there on the first Saturday after the 3rd or 4th of March and lay wreaths and, do a ceremony to honor our Marines and sailors who participated in this historic event.
Very cool.
Yeah. So I mean, so that's
now. Have you looked into? And I may be getting off topic a little bit here, but have you looked into the band having a Marine band come down for that?
The short answer is I think someone asked the question, but I'm not sure that we've actually engaged in having that done.
Yeah.
If you know somebody that we can talk to about,
I know a guy. I know pretty much all the guys in the Marine band. So we can at least start putting some feelers out for that for sure.
Let me. As soon as this podcast is over, I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to call our chairman and say, "Hey, what do we think about this?" So we'll get back with you. But I think he's going to go, "Hey, yeah, if they're willing to come down and participate in it, that's going to be fantastic."
Yeah.
They might get a little sand in their shoes, along the way. Hopefully they don't.
That's okay. Nothing wrong with sand in your shoes.
But
right, Mike.
Well, see that's the thing. We want to get the word out to as many people as we possibly can, because just about everybody who hears about it goes, "Man, that is cool." First time I've heard about that. And they say, just like we did, why hasn't this been done before? Right? I mean, literally, why has not somebody picked up, and run with this ball before now? But the fact that we got the 250th anniversary, that this is, everything's kind of coming together. We think, well, this is the perfect storm for us to do that. And so I have contacted some very senior officers within the Marine Corps. Lieutenant General Carl Mundy III, and his.
I've heard of him. Yeah.
Yeah, you heard of him. Okay, so I'm in contact with him, but I have not taken the next step of asking him about getting any official Marine Corps participation in that. I asked him. I said, "Well, if you would like to just let people, in the Pentagon know about this, you would know how to do that a lot better than I would." So we contacted him, and we also contacted another 2-star general from the Marines. And I want to talk just we're going to take a step back for a second and talk about this guy. I want to show you this book, Washington's Marines by Jason Q. Bohm. Okay, Major General, U.S. Marine Corps. We got in touch with him. A lot of the information that I talked about tonight came from this book. Okay, this is a fascinating book that talks about the history of the Marine Corps, and I, commend you this to your reading list. I have just, it's been fascinating to read this book, And for you, HA, this book is coming to you. So,
Oh, shoot.
yeah.
All right.
Well, we want to thank you. The committee wants to thank you for all you have done to help us with getting the word out there. So we thought the least we can do is to send you a copy of this book. So,
Well, you're too kind. You're too kind.
So here's a sad story. Steve DePaul, the chairman, is down in the Pompano Beach area.
Yeah.
Got a box of stuff. Okay, that includes the book, includes some other stuff that he decided to put in the mail to ship to me. So he calls me on Monday and says, "Hey, did you get the box?" I said, "No, I don't have a box." He said, "No." He says, "That was supposed to be overnight shipped." So he checks, and it left, and it's actually up in New York.
What? Well, I mean, that's pretty good if they overnighted it to New York.
Yeah.
Not the correct destination, but I mean, it's still pretty good.
How you translate Tampa, Florida into Queens, New York? I haven't got a clue.
Well, that's how efficient their logistics are. So
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when that box actually gets here, and then I open up the box, then I'm going to put it in another box, and I'm going to mail it to you, and hopefully this time it'll go direct to the right location. So I apologize that the plan was that we were going to get it to you, I think, before the podcast tonight, but unfortunately,
It's all good. No problem.
The best laid plans of mice and men often go straight. So there you have it.
That's right.
Well, there's got to be some government involvement because there's entirely too much.
Yeah.
Then this, then that, and it's got to go here, and then okay, it's got to come back over here, and then we gotta.
Yeah. So
I've
gotta
literally
make
mailed
sure that
stuff
there's an
from
extra
Southwest
stamp and-
Georgia. I've mailed stuff from Southwest Georgia to my daughter in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I've tracked it where it's gone to Florida. Then it went from Florida to Texas. And then one, it was probably a year ago, went from here to Florida, Florida to Texas, Texas to Minnesota, then it went to Knoxville.
What?
I mean, you explain to me what the
It makes no sense.
Huh.
It either didn't get unloaded, it didn't get scanned, and it's like, oh, they're sitting there looking, they're like, what is this?
Yeah.
You know, it's what I don't understand. But
I don't understand.
if you ask any of them, they're like, oh no, that's the most efficient way for us to do it because then we can send it down there and then they'll resort it and then we'll send it back. And
That's
okay, yeah.
You said that's the most convenient way or the best?
No, the most efficient way.
Most
yeah,
efficient way.
Yeah.
That's
I asked the
scary.
postmaster. I said, "Explain this to me," and he goes, "I can't."
Yeah.
He said it's the most efficient way they deem fit. He said, once it leaves here, he said, I don't know what to tell you. I was like, thanks. I appreciate it.
That's logic for that to be the most efficient thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like what you spent in jet fuel should have literally been put on a truck and driven there for a heck of a lot less.
Okay. As the old saying goes,
Very true.
I digress. So let's see what's the next chart. Let's see if we can get back on track here. Now that we know how our postal system works, let's see if we can talk about. Frank was probably rolling over in his grave if he heard this conversation.
What happened to the horses? You know.
The post. Yeah, what happened with Pony Express? Okay, we could probably get Pony Express over there quicker. Okay, so let's see. We've already talked about this in memorial, and again, the ribbon cutting we're planning on the 14th. So what's the next? We can go to the next chart then.
All right.
Okay, so here again, this is a different. I showed you a picture looking at kind of angle off. Here's looking out over the beach and see what it's going to look like. And you can see the bench off to the left. Instead of that being a guy there, there's going to be, that's where you're going to have a continental marine, but he's going to be over, right next to the railing, so you can, someone else can sit down there and put their arm around him and someone, do a selfie and that kind of thing with him. So, and you can you can see the bronze plaques that are going to be on the actual monument itself, and then you can see the right next to the bench there's a pillar, and then with the railing, and then on that one, and then on another one that's probably out of sight of this artist rendition, that's where we're going to have the other plaques, brass plaques that'll have those people who have made generous donations to pay for the monument itself. So that's kind of how we're going to attack this issue. So that's the monument. That's what it's going to look like. You can see there's plenty of hotels in the background, and restaurants and all that, and so it should be a really fun time. Okay, next chart. What do we got here for the next chart? AJ?
Hey, oh, yeah, I heard you that time.
Okay, oh, yeah, next.
Sorry, I cut out and my my stuff wasn't working there for a second, so I didn't hear anything that you said. But as long as everybody else heard it, we're good. I mean,
okay.
But I personally didn't hear it.
All right, good enough. Well, when you go back, you can look at the podcast to hear what I said.
Yeah, exactly. I apologize for that.
That's okay.
Unfortunately, my service here isn't 100% great, but it's good enough.
Okay. Well, I mean, we'll still marching along. I mean, what the heck?
You said there was another slide, Robbie?
Yeah. There's another slide.
Oh yeah. Okay. Another slide. Yeah.
Okay. Contact information. Well, you put up a banner earlier.
I did.
Okay.
I cheated earlier, so
okay. Yeah.
I thought we were further into the slides than we were, so I apologize. But
so we have come up with a website, and so you just want to just type in 1776landing.org. Okay. And I'll show you a picture of the website here in just a second. And then if you want to contact us, then it's the email address is 1776landingcontact@gmail.com. So that's how you can reach us. Or you can go to AJ and say, hey, what's Robbie's number? And give me a call, and that'll work also.
yeah, I will also put it on the comments for the podcast as well, so it'll be on there.
Okay. Yeah. And by the way, I also want to speaking of podcasts and all that, my wife contacted the Marine Corps League Facebook guy for your National Marine Corps League, and sent him some information about the memorial, and he immediately posted it on Facebook. So if you look at your Marine Corps League Facebook page, you'll see what Kathy, my wife, sent to your chief administrator, and he was so nice. He just immediately, yeah, absolutely, boom.
Was that TJ Morgan by chance, or who was that? Do you know?
Again, I don't do Facebook.
Yeah,
my wife does. I need to get into it, but I had a top secret clearance until very recently, and social media and TS clearances with SCI, they don't match. So I just have not dipped my toe into Facebook or any of that stuff.
I don't blame you. It's not worth it. I would say just it's sometimes can be a pain in the butt. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah. Well, she enjoys it, and she, but a lot of people do. And so our strategy is, okay, well, we'll have the website, but we're also going to, try to shotgun it out to social media locations. Yeah. And so, we're sending it out to the national SAR for them to distribute. And then Kathy said, well, let's do it to the Marine Corps League too, and see if they salute. They did immediately, which again, my hat's off. And so Kathy then, before I walked in, she says, well, ask AJ if he would be willing to take this podcast when you're done and then somehow link it to the Facebook page as well.
I always link every podcast that I put out, I link to the main Marine Corps League, I guess, website, whatever or Facebook. I always link it to their Facebook. So it'll be out there, and I always blast it out as far as I can, at least. So.
Well, that is fantastic. That's all we can ask for, because, clearly we think when we talk to people about this, everybody has a very positive reaction to the monument and how can we help, how we can contribute. In fact, So I'm looking, the guy in the upper right-hand corner, Bill Ney, he jumped on this, as you say, like a duck on a June bug. And he's out there in California, and he has been recruiting and raising money for us. And he has just been doing a yeoman's job. And in fact, speaking of that pack, we sent you those flyers. Bill, did you get them?
I haven't got them yet. No.
Oh, no, I'm talking about Bill Ney.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, I didn't get anything.
No, because he's been doing such a good job. And you have your Marine Corps League convention coming up in Dallas. What, next week, is it?
Next week? Yeah. I'll get to meet Bill down there in person instead of on video. So I'm excited to meet you, Bill.
Yeah. So we sent Bill a bunch of trifold flyers that he's got there in his hand that he can pass out there to help spread the word about, again, if people are interested in coming, Bill's already made his reservations to fly from California to come down and be there for the ribbon cutting, which, that's fantastic. So, we just want to get the word out there, and then, we think that people are going to do the right thing based on that. So, that's kind of where we're at. So let's see, was that the last slide? I don't know.
That was the last slide. I think it was, at least. Let me double check just to make sure. Nope, it wasn't.
Okay. Oh no.
There were two more slides.
Okay. Yeah. So when you go to the 1776landing.org, this is what you'll see. Okay. This is the main page. Okay. That comes up, and the countdown to go, the 220 days to go. And then you can click on how to donate. And then you got the main, and then the honor roll. You can see it in the blue bar and the white letters, the honor roll. If you go in there, you can see all the different organizations that have already contributed to the monument itself. And I didn't take the time to screenshot that, but you guys can go in and take a look at it, because we've already gotten several Marine Corps League and Devil Dog organizations that have already participated and supported us from California, here in Florida, and whatnot. So hopefully after the Marine Corps League convention next week, you guys can do some missionary work, and we'll get even more people and more of these Marine Corps League chapters to join as well. So, and you can see down the bottom there where we're at. Where we've raised so far about $165,000. So we still have about a ways to go. We're about 75% of the way there, I guess.
So what's the total amount that you're trying to raise?
Well, for phase one, it's $225,000. You can see the yellow bar, and below it says 165 raised of the 225. Now that number does not include the bronze Minuteman statue. So the Minuteman statue is going to be probably about another $100,000 on top of that. So yeah. But the plan, we never planned to have that bronze statue for the ribbon cutting in this coming March. That's going to be year 2. So if people want to come actually see the actual statue of the Marine Corps guy, bronze statue of him on the bench, you want to come back for year 2 and have your picture taken with him then. Yeah. So we're raising money in parallel. So if after we get to the 225, we're not going to stop. We're going to keep on going until we get to I think the total number for the whole program, which the monument is phase 1. The bronze statue is what we call phase 2. The combined thing is about $334,000 total. Okay.
Well, if I have any listeners out there that may have an extra $334,000 lying around, you should shoot it out to this guy.
We only need about $140,000 or something. So
that makes it even easier. $140,000.
I was going to say that Andrew's got that in his back pocket right now.
Yeah, I was just going to say between Jim and Mike, I think you got it made. But anyways, I don't know if I have any listeners out there that have that kind of money. But if so, man, go see Robbie. He knows what's up.
And the good news is, they're going to have a very prominent place. Their name is going to be very prominently displayed there right next to them.
Yeah.
And it's going to be charity, man. If you want your name in lights, so to speak, that's the way to do it.
That very true. Very true.
Yeah,
I like
okay.
it.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
there's-
So, all right. So we'll kind of wrap up with, if we're going to be going down to, it's going to be in Pompano Beach. And I talked about how we were really pleasantly surprised how the city of Pompano Beach has been so eager to support this and donate land and, help us get this whole program going. And for anybody who's never been there, you can see the list there, things that soft gold beaches, parks, waters, blah, 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 all the standard things that you would expect to come to Florida and for a vacation, it's got it all right there. So, and it's not that far from there to go up to Orlando, if you wanted to go up and see, Disney World and Universal Studios and all the things that really draw people into Central Florida.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So that's
Very nice.
so, and then we're also working with the restaurants and the hotels, and we're trying to get packages set up so people, when they come in, they actually have a place to stay. So hopefully in the future we'll have that information loaded on that website.
And that's for the unveiling of it, correct?
Yeah, that's for the ribbon cutting on the 14th. So the day, a day prior to a day after, we really haven't got that part totally nailed down. It's more like right now, but we are looking at the hotels and restaurants because we want to have a dinner probably the night prior, and then we have the ceremony the day of, and then probably have a luncheon. And we expect there's going to be dignitaries now, who actually comes, film the letter on that. I mean, the president of the United States doesn't live that far away from there, so
Yeah, true.
And our VP is,
I mean, come on, you can't beat having a Marine as the vice president. I mean, surely he would want to go to this thing.
You would think, right?
Might be the 48th president soon enough too. Oh, I didn't say that.
Well, crazier things have happened, so it's possible.
Yeah. So the fact that our governor DeSantis is a Navy guy also.
That's right. Yeah.
You would think that, with that kind of leadership, at the national and high levels in the state, that we may have some of them decide, oh yeah, I think I want to come down and be part of this. So we don't know yet. Nobody has said yes yet, but we got to start planning for that eventuality that it could possibly happen. So as a committee, not only we're worried about raising funds, we're also what kind of ceremony we're going to have, and the color guard and their participation and all that. So yeah, it's but I think when the dust settles, it's going to be a really fun time and a really great location. And so I couldn't be happier about how that's going to happen. And even though I'm in Tampa, my wife and I, we're going to get in the car, we're going to drive over, we're going to get in a hotel and stay there for a few days too. Bill, you got something?
Yeah, you had talked early on that you were considering a boat trip out to Fort Montague.
Yeah.
That had been brought up. That has not really been discussed recently, and I think it's going to be a function of if we can get enough people who have an interest in that, we'll see if we can actually charter. But as we found out, going from Pompano Beach over to the actual island is not what you would call a half a day or a day trip. So that you couldn't do that in the same day. You have to do that sometime before or sometime after.
So you're saying that'd be an overnight trip or whatever if you did.
Probably, yeah. And it might even be better if you want to go over and take a look at the actual monument. It's the actual Fort Montague itself. That might be get on a plane and fly over to the Providence and then spend a day and then get on a plane and fly back. So I guess a boat trip is not as quick and easy as some of us might have been led to believe at the time, Bill. So,
That's good to know, because I've been mentioning that there was consideration for going out there, and that had some people quite interested in possibly going out to the Bahamas as well. But I will just mention that once you're there, like you said, there's the possibility of jumping on a plane and going over there and looking at it.
Yeah, that's not something that we have formally put a package together, because again, we have no idea how many people would even be interested in doing that. And so the logistics involved in booking a group and then find out there's only you and me to get on the plane, when we've told them, oh, we're going to have 50 people. There's the other 48. Well, they're on the beach sipping margaritas, looking at the monument.
Yeah.
Or they decided they want to go down to Miami instead, or they wanted to go up to Orlando. So because there's so many variables involved with that, we just have not really focused a lot of time and effort on that right now. And again, because we're still heavily involved in the fundraising, you can see that yellow line is not at the promised land. So we still have some missionary work to do in that regard as well right now. So yeah.
Well, I know when I go down to Texas, and I know Bill will do the same thing, I'm going to definitely talk to some people and try and get you some help if we can do that. Maybe some people will be interested in helping out, and we can push them your way, Robbie.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, we really appreciate anything that anybody can do. As we said, we're not doing this for the sons of the American Revolution. We're really doing it for the people of America. And it is, again, I just can't hammer this home enough, that we really do believe, I mean, deep down, the people on this committee, we just, in our bones, we believe that it is time that our Continental Marines got a monument, to recognize that they participated in the Revolutionary War, and their efforts had strategic impact in what they did, going back to their, what we talked about earlier. The fact that they did that caused the British to go, whoa, wait a second here. We didn't know they'd do that. Right? Oh, so we got to put ships and troops, make sure that our sugarcane, factories and all that stuff are still protected. Right. So, I guess as the old saying, it's better late than never. And we never is not a right answer to us. And again, as soon as we do the ribbon cutting, we're going to be turning the keys over to the city of Pompano Beach. So it's going to be owned by the city of Pompano Beach, not by Sons of the American Revolution. Wow. So
and that's pretty significant in my opinion. Like, you're talking about a city that's saying, hey, I think this is significant enough to be in our town or in our city to be able to do that. That's a pretty big step for them. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many cities would be so inclined to do that. They have, and it's just kind of like, everything kind of came together at the right time. And again, as we're coming up on the 250th anniversary, we think, there's no better time than now for us to try to do fundraising, say a year or 2 years from now, and try to get the same level of enthusiasm about that. I don't think it's going to be there. I think people say, oh yeah, it'd be nice to have a monument to the Marines, and yeah, I'd like to help. But again, marrying that into part of the 250th anniversary of our country, I mean, you get 2 for 1 there, right? So
absolutely,
it's absolutely the right thing to do.
Real quick, Robbie, if you don't mind, the book that you had mentioned, written by, and I can't remember who you said, but Major General.
Yeah, it's right here. It's Major General Jason Bohm, Bohm. Jason Q. Bohm. Yeah, he recently retired from the Marine Corps.
Right.
And it's now, I think, a professor or something. He now works for Liberty University.
Okay.
And we found out about his book, and so again, our chairman of the committee bought his book and then read the book and said, "Oh, we need to start passing the word out." So we bought 10 of them, and at our last state convention, we had them out on the table, and we sold all 10 books just like that. Everybody, oh yeah, I want to have the book, So it is a very well written book. And again, anybody who's a Marine or loves the Marines, this ought to be their kind of like the family Bible. I would
Right.
think.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see that book. It looks like there's some awesome stuff that is happening with that. So I literally cannot wait to see it. And also this year, being coming up on the 250th anniversary for the Marine Corps Universities and the History Division and the museum up at Quantico is actually publishing the updated Marine Corps history book. So that should be coming out very soon as well.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's. I think we'll have to take a look at that as well. So thanks. Appreciate you passing that on.
Yeah, absolutely. I can put you in contact with some guys up there as well if you need to talk to anybody up there. I don't know, it might do some good, maybe not. I know a couple of guys up there at least.
Yeah. Well, I've been fascinated reading this book. Even though it talks about the Marines, it really gives a good rundown of other things that were going on in the Revolutionary War, which really gives it a really rich context of the situation that our patriot ancestors were facing back during that time period there.
Yeah.
So it's a fascinating read, and if you like history at all, you'll enjoy reading it. And again, there's some interesting stuff in there. Again, that's where I read about John Paul Jones being on the ship, and he was the one that did the flag, the original flag when he was a lieutenant on that ship called the Alfred. I didn't know. I mean, I've heard of John Paul Jones. I mean, everybody's heard of him, right? But to know that he was part of that historic event himself, not too many people know that. So
yeah, very true.
That came out of this book.
I've got to say that history to me is so incredibly important. And that's one of the reasons that Robbie, like you had come on and you told your veteran story. I think those are incredibly important. And we have to be able to keep the traditions of all branches of service, but we got to keep that going on. And I think this is how we do it. And what you're doing down there is very admirable when you look at, okay, well, one, you are not a Marine. So to honor the Marine Corps from an Air Force perspective, to say, hey, this is important enough for me to come on this Yahoo's podcast, and I appreciate you for coming on. But holy cow, man. I mean, that's a big deal. So we have to make sure that we're remembering our past so we don't repeat mistakes, so we don't repeat things that we shouldn't repeat in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, as they say, if you forget your history, you're bound. But I think we're at a stage in our nation's 250th year, as we really ought to be celebrating this as a big deal. That what we did 250 years ago, and the fact that we are living their dream, we're living their dream, as far as what they were hoping for the future, if we were able to keep it. And certainly you look at world events today, what's going on in Israel, what's going on in Ukraine, what's going on in China and all that, it is really not a safe world that we live in. And even some of the things that I think all of us would agree that, we weren't really happy about some of the things that we have witnessed over, say, the last 8 to 10 years going on in this country as well, right? And so to see the pendulum swing back, as I said in the first podcast, we'll go back to that first podcast where I said that I had marched in President Nixon's parade in 1968, when he was elected in 68. And our biggest concern was not whether we were going to be in step or not. Our biggest concern was being attacked by our fellow citizens in this country over over us being in the military during the Vietnam War era.
Right.
And then to have where we are today, where at least, you know, if you go to the grocery store or Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever, and, you know, and you show your ID and they thank you, you know,
Yeah.
to me, you know, I'm still kind of taken back by the fact that we have people who do now at least recognize military service and are willing to thank us for what we have done, to which I'm really grateful. But I think we just got to keep that momentum going. We have to continue to recognize our ancestors, what sacrifices they made in all of the wars, not just the original war, but the fact that this is our 250th anniversary. Let's celebrate. Let's have a good time. But let's know what we're celebrating for. You know,
Absolutely.
Right.
let's, you know, learn about what they actually did. I think that, you know, that it's fun reading. You know, I mean, it's fun to learn. So that's my personal take on it. But
No, I'm 100% with you. And, you know, you talked about how people learn. I think nowadays a good portion of people look at podcasts. They look at things of the nature of what we're doing right here, right now. And that's how they get their information. They're not necessarily sitting like, you know, brick and mortar and sitting behind a book and reading it and absorbing it that way. They're absorbing it other ways, just like we are right here, which I think is fantastic. For that younger generation to really understand or get a better concept of everything that happened in history.
yes, well, I do not watch. I'll just be honest. I do not watch mainstream media news today. You know, if I want to learn about what's going on in Ukraine, I go get a podcast. Okay,
Yeah.
there's a couple of podcasters that do an outstanding story of letting you know what's going on in Ukraine. You know, if I want to know what's going on in Israel, there's some good podcasters there. And so, I mean, as you said, the younger generation, they're going to podcasts. And that's why I decided, okay, we've got this opportunity to get on a podcast and talk about it. Absolutely. I felt this was the right thing to do. And then, so I was going to, you know, the first podcast, we were going to talk about this, but when I saw the list of all the questions that you're asking, it's, oh, well, you're asking about, you know, what I did in the Air Force, you know,
Right.
So I said, okay, I'll be glad to talk about that. We'll get those kiddies off the street, and then we'll have a podcast focused just to this. And so that's tonight. And again, the fact that you were able to carve out time for me to be able to tell this story, you know, my hat's off to you, AJ. I mean, it's you know.
Well, thank you, Robbie. I appreciate that. I don't care what Mike and Jim says about you there, Robbie. You're the man in my book. So you're just gonna have to take that up with those two knuckleheads down below us there.
Yeah, and Andrew does as usual, and he deflects to us. It's always hurtful.
He does like to do that.
What do they say now? What do the kids say now? And I sound like an old man saying, "What do the kids say now?" But what is it? Gaslighting?
True and
Yeah,
fair.
all of a sudden,
gaslighting.
Gaslighting. All of a sudden, it's all our faults.
I know.
Oh man, I love it.
My head.
Yeah. Well, you got a couple of good sidekicks here, AJ. Don't.
Hey, if it wasn't for these guys right here, I'm not sure I'd be able to make it through every podcast, to be honest with you. They keep me on my toes. They slap me around a little bit, just like a good leader should at some point in time.
Yeah, well, you know, in Air Force, we call that being a good wingman. You know,
there you go. Yeah,
so you got some great wingman. Now, I'll tell you a real quick thing about wingman. In the Air Force, when you're a wingman, we joke about this because it is true, but we joke that when you're a wingman, you're only allowed to say 2, bingo, mayday, and lead, you're on fire. Okay. Now, 2, bingo, mayday, and lead, you're on fire. Okay, and that's all you can say.
Well, they definitely let me know those things. I will say that. They keep me in line. It's all good.
So let's say if you got a 4-ship, then it's not 2. It'd be, so the leader will say something like, go to a different frigates. You go channel 5. And so you expect 2 to say 2, then 3 will say 3, and 4 will say 4. that's all they
Right.
say. Then they go to new frequency, and then the lead, check in 2, 3, 4, and that's all I want to hear out of you.
I don't need all the rest.
I don't need all the rest. Just 2, 3, 4. Know that you heard me, and then 2, 3, 4 that you're on the new frequency or whatever, right?
Right.
So that's one of the things they're allowed to say is 2, 3, or 4. Bingo. Obviously, you're out of gas. Okay, we got to worry about getting you home. Mayday. Okay, you got a problem. We'll see what we can take care of you. And lead, you're on fire. Yeah, let me know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that's what we joke about wingman. Now you guys, your ability to talk more is obviously.
Yeah, as far as Marines go, we just talk crap about each other and make fun of each other. And
Exactly.
if you don't have that, all of a sudden you're like, hey, what's up with this guy?
Right.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
When Robbie, just to tell you, when they stop making fun of me, I kind of worry.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh crap, what did
Yeah,
I
he
do? Or
picks
what
his phone up and he starts texting us. He goes, "You guys okay?"
Yeah, he does.
It's a true statement. That is very true. I will immediately text after.
And we've all been that. They made fun of me a couple of Sundays ago because I won't even get into it. But Andrew will be doing something and I'll be like, "Hey, dude, put the fireball down." And all of a sudden you see it's like, no, we're having. It's a Sunday night. And we're having.
It was
we're all
a
having
great
an adult beverage.
Marine
It's
Corps
like,
night.
it's like
Yeah,
There it is.
we're talking about cinnamon. Yeah,
just put the fireball down and then.
yeah.
Yeah, I got the one. They're all laughing at me, and I'm like, "What the hell are these guys laughing at?"
It happens, man.
In the fighter
That's
pilot
part of our community.
Yeah, there was some right gut stuff that we used to chug.
Robbie, you talked about doing a dining in or dining out that you had some very interesting drinks. Let's say it that way on your podcast.
Yeah, well, I've had several different. I don't think you have enough time for me to talk about all the things associated with dining ins and dining out. But I have a younger daughter, and she constantly asks me, "Dad, tell us that story again about the blueberry cheesecake." When I was in Lake Heath, England, flying 111s, we had a dining in, and the wing commander invited Sir Douglas Bader, who was a World War II ace, and so in the flying community, everybody knows about him.
Yeah.
He shows up, and the wing commander says no rolls. Now, I don't know how the Marine Corps handles dining ins, but in Air Force, people have been known to liberate, objects and throw them, like rolls and whatnot across the room. The wing commander says no rolls. He mandated that they didn't even serve rolls. So we go through the dinner, and for dessert they're offering. They give us blueberry cheesecake. Okay. And our mess dress was white. It was a white mess dress at the time. We had white in the summer and black in the winter. And so I just reached for my fork, and I was getting to take the first bite of blueberry cheesecake. And one of my buddies, a couple tables up, smuggled in a roll, pulled it out, and he goes, "Toss!" And he tosses it. And
no!
Touch and go, lands in the blueberry cheesecake, and then right on the my chest. Man, I was in shock. You gotta be kidding me. Well, the rest of the deteriorated after that.
Leave it to your friends to be the one to and completely ruin your uniform for the evening.
Oh,
so friends will be there for you.
You talk about getting fragged, man. with your own dessert. I mean, and I love your cheesecake, but man, and to have it on your chest, and on your mess dress. I mean, that thing was toast after that. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Now that makes for a good dining in or dining out right there, or a mess night for the Marines. That's typically what we did, but that always makes for a good time for sure. Mike, Jim, did you guys get to experience some of that stuff?
Nothing quite like that. It was usually a little more physical.
Oh, more physical. Okay.
Yeah. It involved alcohol, which turned that
Always.
direction.
And then it got very physical, and
It's like, wow, that's why we can't. It's basically it's like your dad saying, "Well, that's why we can't have nice things."
yeah.
Why we can't do nice things like this? 'Cause you
That's
idiots
right.
don't like it.
Yeah.
So you say things got a little physical, Jim?
I mean, yeah. There's always somebody you had to go harass.
yeah.
It happens. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna say
And
it
when you're
doesn't.
one of the bigger built guys, they like to harass you when they get drunk too, and that's funnier. So
Yeah. Well, with alcohol and people, when they mix, strange things result. Right? Very strange things result. If you leave the alcohol on the table, it's fine. If you leave the people, but when you bring the two together,
That is
the best thing
pretty
was you
interesting.
wake up the next day, everything was cool, no big deal.
yeah. Everybody's alive. No broken bones.
As long as you didn't break nothing, you were good.
That's right.
Well, hey, Robbie, thanks for coming on and doing this for us. I've thoroughly enjoyed this evening, just like I've enjoyed the last podcast with you. Your story is incredible, is fun to listen to. It's not very often that I personally get to hear an Air Force fighter pilot and test pilot conversation. So I appreciate you for coming on and sharing with us. It was pretty awesome.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine, AJ. And again, as you talk about, it's for a worthy cause. And so, it's a win-win, so, the fact that you're allowing this venue for us to get the word out to people, I'm just the messenger. I want people to focus not so much on me, but on what the monument and what we're trying to do, and trying to, again, honor our patriot ancestors, to meet our Sons of the American Revolution core mission that I talked about earlier.
Absolutely. And just in case everybody is wondering, 1776landing.org, or you can email 1776landingcontact@gmail.com. That's going to put you in contact with these guys. They're going to be able to point you in the right direction. If you're wanting to help in some way, donate some money, donate some time, something of that nature, that's how you're going to do it. So don't forget about these guys. It's a fantastic cause, in my opinion. I could be because I'm a Marine. I'm a little biased, but still yet very important when you look at our history and 250 years of this amazing country. Well, thanks, guys, for coming on and doing all this. I truly appreciate it. I'm going to give you guys each one last time words of wisdom as we go around, and we'll hit that up and see what everybody's got to say tonight. Yeah, buddy, words of wisdom. Now, Robbie, do you want to go first, or you want to go second or last? It's up to you totally this time.
Well, I'll just say, the Air Force, motto is aim high, and that's what we're trying to do. As we talked about, trying to shake the stick. And my point is that anybody can, if you have an idea, just decide to do it and go do it, and you'll be surprised how things fall into place. But with regard to I think with regard to the Marine Corps, I think your Semper Fi motto, I think that's. I wish the Air Force had something like that. That's motto.
Well, surely you guys have something. I don't know what it is, but surely you have a saying of some sort. Yeah.
Well, it's aim high.
Aim high.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
well, that's good. That's good.
But it is, again, it's just been a pleasure to be here with you guys. And again, it reminds me of back, when I was the wing commander, and these Marines came in and asked for a place. Hey, where can we fly our helicopters? So, well, let's see if we can get you a bed down in here. And so I've always enjoyed my time with Marines, as limited as they are, but it's still. So you guys are a lot of fun to be with. So
see, we're not all bad, just a little. Just a little bad from time to time.
I never heard anybody say you were, so I don't know where that.
Good point. Good point. I like that. All right, Jim, what do you got for us tonight?
All right, 2 things to remember in life. Take care of your thoughts when you're alone. And and take care of your words when you're with people.
Very good.
Wow,
I like that.
that was good.
Well,
Jim's
that's-
bringing the heat tonight.
Yeah, that
Look
was
at
the
that.
stinger. He
Holy
should've got
cow.
mine. Good.
All right, Mike, it's your chance to have the humdinger. What do you got for us?
I don't know that I can beat Jim's, but it was something I had to say last week to a coworker that's relatively new, and I'm training,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just nonstop. Well, I don't want to say, there's no question is a dumb question, right?
Right.
But
I don't know.
he's trying to work some things to his benefit, and he asked me, and I was like, you know what? I said, if you have to think that you have to ask me, then you probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
That's good.
That
He
is.
just stood there and looked at me. I was like,
You know what? I wish I would have been able to say that my entire career, because that would have saved so much time on many things.
yeah.
That's so
Yeah, but
wise.
then it wouldn't be the core like experience.
Yeah, well, it could be, one of those. It's better to ask for forgiveness than.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking. Is it is better, if you think it's right, go ahead and do it, and then be willing to pay the consequences. If it doesn't turn out,
Absolutely.
steps.
It's a true statement.
Yeah.
We used to joke in Korea. Is it seemed like a good idea at the time.
Yeah, that's a big part of it at the time.
At the time.
I mean, how many of us have been at the time and thought it was a good idea, and then all of a sudden we get home and it's not a good idea.
It goes back to that. If the alcohol's over here and the people are over here, but when they're here, it seemed like a good idea at the time. Seems like it happens a bit more often.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, shoot, man. Hey, guys, thanks for coming on and doing this. I truly appreciate it. Robbie, it's been a pleasure chatting with you and having you on.
Absolutely.
I've really enjoyed it. Of course, Mike and Jim, you guys rock. I don't care what anybody says about you.
Now Jim's talking crap about us.
Yeah, Jim is talking crap for sure.
That's me.
But hey, guys, thanks for coming on and doing this. Much appreciated. To all the listeners out there, if you're struggling, you need help, anything like that, don't forget the VA has some great resources. You can always dial 988 press option 1. You can always text 838-255, or you go to veteranscrisisline.net and click on that chat icon. Any of those options will put you in contact with somebody that can help you out. But remember, one veteran life lost is one too many. I care about you. Robbie, Mike, Jim, they all care about you. Same thing with the whole veteran community. So please reach out for help. And if you're out there, you're not struggling, reach out to the buddies you serve with. Ask them how they're doing. And if they need that helping hand, please give it to them. All right, Robbie, again, like I said, one last time, you are the man. I don't care what anybody says. Thank you for coming on. I truly appreciate it. Mike, Jim, I guess I'll see you guys on Sunday. But again, thanks for coming on. To all the listeners out there, stay motivated. Change your socks.